So, what are we here to talk about today? Well, it's Cherie's 15th Nomadiversary. 555. Wow, that's a lot of years you've been on the road.
But more importantly, it's also Technomadia's 15th anniversary since we started it.
Yeah, we actually registered the domain. We just looked this up. Technomadia.com, just a couple days before you hit the road on
May 10th.
May 10th,
2007.
2007.
So join us for a little trip down memory lane.
Staying on the path that I've chosen, straight up. Come my way and I'll see you at the top. 'Cause something's gonna happen in this story, and I can feel it coming like the rising of the sun. Straight up.
So we have been sharing on YouTube since about 2009, but our own journey predates YouTube. Kind of. Well, at least us being on YouTube.
Yeah, and God, yeah, we've been doing this nomadic thing for a long time, and as kind of an exercise for her 15th Nomadiversary, Cherie just kind of like, I'm just going to write down a retrospective of each of the 15 years, and each one turned into these big, beautiful blog posts going over each of the years, and just there's a lot has happened and a lot of lessons along the way.
A lot of lessons. It took a lot of energy to put these posts out. More if I had, in retrospect, on my retrospective, might not have done it, but I think the end result is really good.
Oh, it is.
Because it's setting us up a foundation for what might be next for us. But we thought we would come back here to YouTube because we know not all of you read our blog or our Facebook page where this has been shared. And I don't think we've ever really told our origin stories.
No, not the big picture, not all through time. The pieces are there, but so I guess today, we're going to go through those 15 years in kind of the abbreviated fashion. Talk about some of the lessons.
This is the abbreviated
This is the abbreviated. It's amazing how much stuff, how many adventures we've had, how many good and the lows. I mean, there've been some really hard times too over the past 15 years, and I guess you've got to.
Well, we got to start before I hit the road, which is Chris hit the road solo in 2006 in a little tiny tab trailer from after ending his Silicon Valley career.
Yeah, and the last thing I expected I had my list of things I wanted to do was like, Baja and Alaska and just travel across the country and do all this stuff and go paramotoring in cool exotic places. The last thing I expected being on the road in this tiny little trailer is to meet somebody who's like, sure, I'll sell my house and move in with you. But shortly after I was on the road, this one hit me up on a couple online sites. Particularly, she messaged me on a Prius forum of all places.
Yeah, that's where we met. That's where you meet. That's where you can go to meet your life mate. It was on a Prius forum. I had just bought my second Prius. I was intending to sell my house in Florida and do a cross-country solo drive and start a new life out in California. That was where I was at. And I was on the Prius forum looking for the tip to turn off the stupid backup beat. And I see a post from this one.
Yeah, I was there saying farewell to my Prius and saying, hey, I've now traded my Prius for a Jeep and I'm off on all these technomadic adventures going out and about.
And I actually recognized him because we had some friends in common. Some of the people I was moving out to California to be closer to. And I just said, hey, cool. I have a Prius too. We have friends in common. And I was planning to go to Burning Man that year. And said, see you there, basically. And he took that as I wanted to sell my house.
Well, yeah, we had became a little bit of pen pals, but there was actually, at best, we thought we might get together on occasion or something. We had our first date in October of 2006. She was flying out to do just another trip to California, and I was happening to be passing through, and it just clicked. She's like, come to Florida. I was like, sure, why not?
We did. Anyway, so our dating was really extended RV trips together and really figuring out that we were really compatible with each other. And we decided in early 2007 that I would go ahead and get my life ready to live mobily with him in this little travel trailer, 16 feet long, tab, teardrop. It had no bathroom. It had no refrigerator and no air conditioner. But it had solar panels and mobile internet. which is what I needed to do to run my company continue. Because at the time I was running a software development company with my father, and I needed internet. That was the only thing I needed to be able to work from anywhere I was going to be. And it all came together. May 10th is when we pulled out of my driveway in Florida after paring everything down.
And putting a for sale sign out front.
And we left out of that driveway without a return trip planned. I did put the house up for sale. It did not. It was just the beginning of the Great Recession. It did not sell immediately, and I did end up taking a pretty huge loss on the house in order to achieve this dream.
So this is 2007. What was the kind of the story of 2007? We hit the road, and
in May, he was best man in a wedding in California in 5 weeks. So we had a really quick trip. Well, 5 weeks seems like a long time, but it was a really quick trip because we planned a whole bunch of stops to see people along the way that diverted the path from being direct.
Bing, 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 bing.
And I had to let go of my need to plan and schedule in order to not go insane. But we encountered so many obstacles, and that number one, you're dealing with giving up everything you've ever known. And then we kept having incidents come up. We hydroplaned on the interstate, jackknifed, and did a 360 spin down
with the trailer.
With the trailer. That was fun.
But we didn't flip over or anything.
So there's that.
Yes.
We had some scary boondocking encounters that really made me question the sanity of this new lifestyle. We were away from community. We were away from friends.
There weren't a lot of other people, particularly our age, out being nomadic at the
There
time.
wasn't a support network that we had found yet to tap into. We were meeting up with lots of friends and family along the journey. And then I had a medical issue come up that required us returning back to Florida to have surgery.
At the end of the year, 2007.
Because we had a stupid healthcare system that I didn't have portable health insurance to switch to something that would cover me anywhere.
So fortunately, the house hadn't sold, so we actually had a home base to come back to in Florida, spend a few months dealing with the medical stuff.
But my takeaway lesson of 2007 is we went through some pretty big obstacles to explore this new thing. New relationship energy, so I got us through this craziness. But
remember, not even a bathroom on board.
That's a different story. But for me, it was learning that I could overcome obstacles, and we could overcome obstacles together, because while we overcame a lot that year and we got good at navigating them, there would be a heck of a lot more in the years ahead, and that was a good skill set.
That's good practice. That's good practice.
So that was the lesson, is you can overcome obstacles.
Yes, so that was 2007. Now, 2008, we used the house to recover from the surgery you needed, and we also used that time to realize that little tab trailer wasn't gonna cut it. We still wanted to do this nomadic thing, and so we actually tracked down and decided what we wanted next, and found Oliver Travel Trailers, and had something custom made for us, which was kind of a big stretch, but very fun.
Right. So it was great. He was like really focused on getting that done. Well, my house needed to actually sell now, because I had been supporting the house financially, as well as my part of us traveling, and during the Great Recession, some of my clients went out of business, which impacted my income. And this was not going to be sustainable to keep this house. And its value kept dropping. So it was crazy. I had to get it sold for us to really, really leave. So I was focused on that, while he was focused on getting this new trailer spec'd and built and designed. We didn't build it. Oliver built it, but we were really involved in it.
Yeah, we actually got to go to the factory and get our hands dirty, figuring out where the electric's going to go and all that fun stuff.
Yes. But when we finally left and had everything, it was, again, summer of 2008 when we finally left, picked up the trailer, and hit the road this time without a home base for any of us to return to.
And the house sold immediately this time.
Did.
Once you were ready mentally, it just went boom.
Boom. But I struggled a lot, and had been struggling a lot, because here I had dropped most every identification that I had, house owner, business owner, career-wise, and everything else. And I was struggling to feel my place in this new world. And it was very, very difficult, and I wasn't seeing what I could do, because I was stuck in this scarcity mindset of we're meeting all these amazing people in our travels, but I was only able to fixate on what they had and what I was lacking. instead of bringing to the table what I had too, and what we had as a relationship and this adventure that we were going on. It was hard not to see ourselves as just homeless bums.
So some people thought that about us. It was
Yeah.
it was kind of this transition period of, because like we went, the tab was so minimalist, and then the Oliver was still super tiny and minimalist, but it was also super abundant. It had every possible feature, and it was so well made. And so it just kind of, it was this like transition of like, yes, we're living small, we're living very minimally, we're living on a shoestring budget in some ways, but we're also living very richly
in experiences.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And thankfully, we took a short-term contract in the Bay Area, where he had come from, and we were introduced to the Abundance League. And this was just a casual group of people that met up every so often and just really helped people reframe that scarcity mindset to one of abundance. And it helped me start to less focus on what I didn't have and more on what I had. And that changed everything for me. It really helped me re-embrace who I was going to be and who we were going to be.
And our new kind of path on life there. Yeah.
And that we had a story to tell. So we have encountered so many people over the years who have come to us and said, I really want to be doing what you're doing, but I don't have, and then they name the skill sets that they think that make it essential for us. And the lesson that I learned that year is the lesson I want to impart to you is, it doesn't matter what we have. It doesn't matter what they have. It matters what you have. And that is the abundance mindset. So it takes a while to get through it, but once you do, you realize that you have a lot more to offer.
You start to find and fill in the gaps and the pieces, and to realize, abundance. That's a lesson of 2008. 2000. There's a lot of years here. 2009.
We have a lot more to go.
Oh my gosh, yeah, 2009. We were doing all this travel thing and circling the country, but it was still kind of isolated. We're like bouncing from place to place, but we started to really find our tribe in 2009.
We started to realize there was a tribe we needed to make tools to help find. Social media wasn't what it was today in our beginning years. Twitter and Facebook had just been launched. There weren't that many people on it. YouTube was just coming around. It wasn't as easy to meet people as it is today.
Yeah, to find your people, and we kind of went through this experience of like basically, it was almost like a revelation when we met our first other younger full-time working on the road Technomadia, yeah.
Someone similar in age, similar in place in life. Ben Wilmore was an amazing first meet. We met up in a few different locations. He came to Burning Man with us and helped us really define that we needed more tools out there to create community. We needed to put more effort into it. And we had to readapt our own definition of community because we were so used to it. When you live stationary, you have the people in your local area. You might not see them all the time because you don't have that scarcity of time together. You have this feeling that they're always going to be there. We all know that's not true. But when you're on the road, it's a very different sort of thing. Is when you meet up with someone else, whether you're passing through a town or you are meeting up with another nomad, in very real terms that you're going to be parting ways. That's the nomadic way. We're all on this adventure, and that is the path that we are on. And we had to really learn to redefine community for ourselves so that we could really appreciate the encounters that we did have, and that you're going to be learning to say until next time. Heck of a lot.
And it's kind of this, you find this richness in it of that you're having these same people, but you're having experiences together in different places, which is a whole, that's actually a wonderful thing and an eye-opening thing. And we've got now friends and community that we've connected with in dozens of states and shared so many different things and experiences together.
That was one of the coolest things about going back through, because I had to go through thousands of photos every day to pick out the one to represent the year, and just how many times people came up in our albums and like, oh my gosh, these people have been there. We have a 5, 6, 10 year history with some people. And that's that's
Yeah,
this
can
big
find you-
takeaway is the community aspect, and you have to shift with it on the road. It's not like being stationary and having a consistent community, and that's also still one of my troubles. Well, we made the shift and we've gotten through it in the last 15 years.
It's still
that-
a struggle sometimes.
That
yeah.
is the part I miss the most, is the intentionality and consistency of community. I do miss that.
Yeah, because sometimes you just don't know when you're going to see your people again, and because you're on other sides of the country, and when are your paths going to cross? And it's that's been a challenge. 2010.
2010.
We mix it up a bit here.
So we had now been in the Oliver travel trailer for a couple of years. Our blog is now kind of shifted from being just this personal place where we continue to share our individual blogging in a new space together. We're starting to get some following. You're starting to get some people reading along. I think we're doing a little bit of YouTube back then, but not much.
Yeah, and we'd also kind of been invited to talk about technomadism and stuff at some events, and we'd had because we were kind of a unique thing back then. There wasn't people who were starting to research this online. They'd find us, so it was interesting to start having this following that was defining us in a sense.
In many respects, because of course the people who are following along, they're going to be reacting to what we're putting out there. And I've always had this concept in my mind that labels are best used for descriptions, but not prescriptions. So they should be helping you communicate what it is you are doing, but they should not define your future. And it was getting to be really hard because we were getting seen as minimalist RVers working on the road in this small trailer. And we were starting to feel that small trailer. We were starting to feel that it was time for a different adventure. We never set out to be just RVers.
Or just small trailer people, or just, we were really good at going on minimal resources, but we didn't set out to be super minimalist either. It was just, that was what was fun. That was what worked. That's what fit our budget at the time.
And we even decided that we weren't even committed to being nomadic for life. That was just, it was going to be something that we did until it no longer was fun.
Yeah.
And so in 2010, we got an offer to move over to the U.S. Virgin Islands, to the island of St. John. A friend of ours had leased a little treehouse cottage, and she needed someone to sublet it. Well, she took care of some stuff in life.
Some medical stuff, yeah.
And we started to think, oh yeah, we know a lot of nomads. We can shop that around. We said, why not us?
Yeah.
And so on a dime.
We're ready for a break, and literally, we
in hours.
In hours, we decided, let's start driving across the country. We were in California at the time. We need to get to the Virgin Islands in a couple weeks.
We have a cat.
We have a cat. And so let's go to Florida. So there's only a single hop on the flight for her. And let's
park
go.
the trailer there.
Park the trailer.
My dad had been having health issues, which will come up in a future story here. So we wanted to be Florida based in case something else came up with him, and that's where we wanted to have our stuff. And so yeah, we were parking our RV, and when we announced this, much of our community was like supportive, rah rah rah, yay, do you? But the backlash.
Some people were like, "No,
you're betraying us. You're
How could you go live in a house?" It's not a house; it's a screen porch. It doesn't even have windows. But yeah, sure, whatever. It's
and even for us to do it, we had to release the label that we were starting to feel that sharing our lives was also boxing us in. And that year we really learned not to let labels prescribe our future. Yes. And I think that's an important lesson for all of us to learn, is whatever labels that you adopt, especially as you're making a big shift from a stationary to a nomadic life, it's really easy to start to over-define as an RVer, as an overlander, as a boater, as a whatever the new labels are that you're using to define yourself and find your new community and your resources. It's okay when they change, when your own desires no longer fit those labels.
It is perfectly. It's actually encouraged to mix things up, and it's like something starts to feel a little stale. Well, okay, what is the next right path? And that was really kind of fun to have such a, because we'd invested so much of ourselves in custom building this Oliver, and we're like, we're just going to set this aside. It's been a couple years. We're ready for something new.
And that brings us into 2011. Our time in St. John was over the winter season, so we started it in 2011 there. And when you started the blog, Technomadia, you had put kind of the subline,
But
which is still there today.
Yeah, my tagline, even before we started Technomadia, my personal blog was Adventures in Nomadic Serendipity, was my tagline when I hit the road, first day.
Yes, and he was already pretty good at it. It took me an adjustment to get up to serendipity of this thing of letting go of attachments and planning. I was a planner. I had to let go of all of that and leaving that room for the unexpected to come in and be able to recognize that that's the right path for you. When you set out with too many plans, too many things, you're saying no to other things. Yeah. And serendipity is leaving that yes there as an opening. It's a mindset. It's
kind of a mantra for us.
It is. And I had been learning over the years, and I brought this lesson in because when we got to St. John, all the dip signs on the island had been, I call it vandalized, I think improved. Some would say skinny dip, some would say clam dip, but the one at the base of our little mountain road to get up to was modified to say serendipity. That's a pretty darn clear signpost that we were in the right place for that at our time.
And we just trusted in serendipity. We had no idea what was going to happen to us when we came back from the Virgin Islands. We had to give up the little cottage, the tree house we were in. Came back, and we knew that Oliver probably wasn't right for us, but we didn't know what was next. We just kind of opened ourselves. And before we even announced that maybe we'd be considering getting rid of the Oliver, somebody, I guess, picked up the vibe we were putting out, wrote to us and said, "Hi, my own RV was broken down. My dream is to own an Oliver. The factory shut down. They're not making anymore. I've been waiting for years. If you're interested in selling, can I buy yours? And, I need it in 2 weeks."
I think it was a week, actually.
Yeah, a week. And so we're like, sure, why not?
So we literally, we picked up a RV on the way from a friend.
Borrowed an old junker RV.
And delivered the Oliver, got all our stuff into storage at Chris's parents' place, and we put backpacks on, bought a month-long Amtrak rail pass, and traveled the country looking for a vintage bus.
Yes, that's what we set out to do. It was like, we'd been turned on by buses by our friend Ben, and we're like, maybe that's what's next for us. Let's go find an old bus. And, we had no car. We had no RV. We had all our stuff just piled up into a basement, with a tarp over it, basically. But cat sitting with my parents, and hit the rails like hobos, and just trusted we would find something.
And we did. We found Zephyr, and started a next chapter in our own nomadic adventures. But serendipity has been a constant in our life. It doesn't mean just letting luck happen and decide everything for you. It's knowing ourselves, it's setting the intentions, knowing our skill sets, knowing what we want, and then
letting go of the attachment of how that comes together. It's just like set the intention and then trust that it'll all come to you.
Yes. So challenge yourself with some serendipity sometime.
Yes.
It's a powerful, powerful thing. All right, 2012. This one made me cry. So I mentioned my father. He had been diagnosed with lung cancer in 2010, and had a lung removed, and we were there for that and helped him and my mother through that. And then when we got back from the Virgin Islands, the cancer had come back as well. So we started 2012 off with his diagnosis of it coming back and it being terminal. Yeah. And one of the gifts this cancer gave us was time and knowing that day was coming. So we were able to really make that year important. Now, keep in mind, this is not only my father. I had a very close relationship with my father. We had best friends. He was a mentor, and we ran a business together. So that year was spent also getting the business ready to transition from him to whatever it was going to be after his passing. It was a very emotional year, but we also really, really, the nomadic life gave us that flexibility to really be there. And that travel, the lesson I got out of that is travel is not just about the places, it's where your heart wants to be.
Yeah, and the gift of nomadic life is that we were able to, for when we needed to be in Florida and when we needed to spend an extended time, to move and basically get a long-term multi-month spot, put our bus there and be there. And at another point in time, basically Tim was in a period of not needing so much help, and he's like, go out and travel for me, basically.
He traveled a little bit himself, but then he
Yeah.
needed to go back into chemo sooner than later, and he had wanted to go up and dip his toes in all of the Great
That
Lakes.
was one of his travel wishes.
So we kind of quietly went and collected water from each of the lakes and brought it back to him as his birthday, his last birthday. We called it Operation Dip Toes, and if you search our YouTube channel, there's actually the video of us presenting that to him. He wanted that out there.
It was such
I
a beautiful...
haven't brought myself to be able to watch it. It's there.
And yeah, when we showed him that we had been dipping Cherie's toes as proxy for his in water for all the Great Lakes, and oh, by the way, we brought you water from each of the Great Lakes, and here it is so you can dip your toes as well. There were waterworks exploding, and that was just a gift that travel let us bring that back, and that was quite a year.
It was a big year, but focus on the important things. Don't let your travels be defined by just a bucket list of places. Remember the heart, where your heart needs to be. All right, 2013. My father passed in early 2013. A lot of the year was spent helping my mother, helping get his affairs settled, and getting the business transition. I decided continuing to run this software development business was not my calling anymore. I'd already done this for 20 years, 10 years, 20 years at that point. 20 years. God, we're old. And it was time to transition the remaining clients off to other contractors and shut down the business. And we intended to take a sabbatical. That was the plan. I'd get the company shut down.
We had saved up enough money. We could do a kind of a year off and
figure out what was next for us. Well, life had other plans. My father wanted some of his ashes scattered in Montana, the only state he had never gotten to. So we made that our mission. We had signed up to be lighthouse hosts out in Oregon. We're going to join up with this blogger that we just admired from afar and join them for a summer of being
tour guides at a lighthouse.
And that seemed like a great sabbatical way to start our sabbatical. Well, our bus, almost as soon as we crossed the state line into Montana, overheats.
Yeah, the engine basically self-destructed. There's a lot of old stories on the blog and the drama around it. Because we basically had to live in a parking lot in Billings, Montana, and the shop there, the Interstate Diesel, was...
fantastic. But we lived there, and I got to apprentice under it, which was great, but it was 7 weeks.
Rebuild our engine, yes.
In the middle of me trying to get all the logistics of this business shut down and the clients transferred over to other contractors. And we happened to launch a little book at the time. In my grief, I wrote a book about mobile internet because I was tired of answering questions about it. So put that out there too. So we had this book launch. And so the lighthouse thing got kind of delayed. We were able to go there in September, basically at the end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the business was shut down at this point. And it was great. It was a beautiful month and a half, I think we stayed there. Living on the coast of Oregon, the ocean is so restorative. It had been a tough year, an emotional year, putting a lot of emotions off to the side while we did all the logistics and handled this unexpected breakdown. Mm-hmm. And we had a follower. It was actually, we had found Zephyr's original mechanic from back in the 70s.
Who had actually worked on our literal bus.
When it was
found
in service. And he had been following along with the engine rebuild and kind of being a supportive voice for us. And advisor, too. And when he knew that we were heading out to the lighthouse, he asked for our shipping address and said he had a gift for us. And I get there, and it's waiting, and it's this beautiful kite. I think it's actually right over there.
It's actually still here.
Yeah.
We have it, yeah.
It's beautiful, compact, folding kite. But what I most remember was the way he signed the note with it, which was "Joy Your Day," which is different than what we're used to hearing, which is "Enjoy Your Day." Yeah. Joy your day. It's that activeness that we have the power to bring joy to our own days and to others. That it isn't a passive experience. Joy isn't something you passively do.
And it's something to keep in mind every single day. It's like just bringing that to mind, bringing that present into your life every day, and having that reminder was very powerful. Very, very powerful.
Yeah, so we started the sabbatical. That lasted how long?
A couple weeks.
And then that leads us into 2014. Now, we intended to take the yearish off, not doing much. We had a little bit of residual income. We had launched some mobile apps. We had, at this point, coverage and state lines were both out.
2 apps out.
2 outs, and they were a little bit of residual income and a little bit of income coming in from this new book that we launched. But that was it for income. And we were mostly going to
intentionally dialing it back, and but yeah, we had I guess towards the end of 2013, we got contacted by
someone with an idea for a social network for RVers. And you might recall, what, an hour ago we were talking about?
Community, yes.
Community is very important.
And so we're like a tool to help other people not have to struggle so hard to find community on the road. Wow, I love this idea. So it was such an inspiring idea for us. We kind of ended up dropping our sabbatical and diving
signed on to basically going into startup mode, which is beyond working,
Yes.
and helping launch our village, which launched in early 2014. Through our village, that got us going to RV rallies, and we ended up at the Escapade. We had been avoiding the Escapees because we thought it was the old people's club. We get there and find out it's all our people, just older than us.
And the new generation that's taking over the Escapees is like, what can we do to appeal to, why haven't you joined? What could we do to bring more people like you into our club?
And we had ideas because we
had margaritas.
and we knew that we had been hosting convergences and meetups. Had a camp at Burning Man that we had founded for nomads. We knew this younger generation coming in to the nomadic life, and we knew that they needed real resources, the resources that the Escapees offers. And over margaritas one night, we came up with the idea for Escapers and
the name and everything. And we started the secret project to create the Escapers.
So we went right from our village to Escapers, and somehow in the middle of there, we launched another mobile app, U.S. Public Lands. And we also did, because we needed some income at this point, because working for startups doesn't really
they're like, we'll pay you someday if we're successful. And,
they did later when they were successful. But then it was not working for money. So our unpaid sabbatical became unpaid lots of work. And now if we were going to rewrite the book, so there was a lot of demand for this mobile internet book that we had written. And
everything was now obsolete because it's a year later.
And it needed to be rewritten. So we did an Indiegogo funding campaign, got funding from our community to take some time off and write that book.
Yeah.
So we're doing Escapers along with this. We're writing a book. And this funding campaign had been so successful. I mean, not like don't work successful, but it got the stretch goal, which was to launch a website with a membership program.
Yes, the Mobile Internet Aficionados and the Mobile Internet Resource Center kind of were born. We didn't know what that was going to lead to, but it's like, okay, there's now an online community of people who want to support this. Who knows where that will go?
So that was a year of launching stuff.
Oh
and
my God, that was such a busy year.
I was trying to look for what the lesson was in that, and that lesson actually wouldn't come for the next year, which is don't launch so much. But the lesson, when I was looking for the photos to try to find the right one to capture what 2014 was, the thing that stood out to me was community. It was the people that we got to travel with, the convergences and the groups that we got to spend expended time with, and that it was people, that was the year that and I'd separated it in my mind.
It was the people in our tribe that kept us sane, and because we pushed ourselves to the limit over and over and over that year, and it was the people, the people that we knew and that loved us and that we loved, that were kept us sane when we would hit those walls. And
so I'm calling the lesson of that year was it takes a village.
Yes, trust in your people.
Is find your people, be with your people, because it's very important. That support network for us is very, very important. Okay, so 2014 was launching a bunch of stuff. 2015 was burnout.
Oh my gosh.
That was a lot of energy we put out. And we decided to add on to that. We felt like, okay, Escapers is launched. The Mobile Resource Center is launched. It's going well. We're no longer advising, we're no longer actively involved in our village, just being advisors to them. And our schedule was starting to now be around going to Escapers events and helping those events thrive. We saw the summer ahead. No Escapers events on the calendar yet. We thought, we need an adventure. And what did we decide to do?
So we decided to do too much. We decided okay, our bus, maybe we should do a project to have our bus, some projects done while we go on this big trip to Alaska, because we want to go to Alaska, and let's do it differently. Rather than take our bus there, which we're not sure we trusted for that kind of trip, we'll leave our bus in Elkhart in a shop to have some work done,
including repainting it.
Yeah, let's repaint the bus, and then we did, and all these things got added on. I was like, let's completely redo the plumbing. Let's do this. Let's add a heating system. It turned into a way big, too huge project.
But the shop assured us it could all be done in about 2 months. So we would go off and do this Alaska adventure by train. cruise ship backpack.
Met up with our community up in Alaska, which was awesome.
And we rented an RV, and we just booked a last-minute cruise back, which was amazing. It was an amazing trip. Well, until we stopped getting reports on Zephyr's progress. Something was up. So we cut the trip short, flew back, and discovered that Zephyr was all torn apart, and there was no signs of her coming back together.
I nearly lost it because when we walked in and saw our bus, our baby that we put so much into, I thought it would never drive again. I mean, it was so far down in the disassembly process, and so much had gone wrong in this project that we had to move on site and become project managers, become involved every day to try and get our bus put together.
Well, running a business, and we're still consulting to Escapers, and we had the first Escapers Convergence. So this is now like August. First Escapers Convergence is in early October at the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta.
And that was supposed to be where we were heading to, and it's like we're running out of time. And like, is our bus going to be able to get to this convergence? Are we going to have to fly out and borrow an RV? What's going to happen? And all that stress.
There's a lot of stress. We did get everything wrapped up just in the nick of time. Did a manic drive down to Albuquerque.
Had a wonderful convergence.
But we're 10 days of being socially on. Which we're introverts. That's not our thing, even on a good day. But we had 10 days of it. Early mornings to help volunteer on balloon patrol and helping launch balloons, hosting this thing.
Running the Mobile Internet Resource Center, which is taking off like crazy.
Major stuff happening there.
And while doing this all at once. Oh my God.
Way too much. We go off on our own. One of the plans that we had been covering, anyone remember OmniLinks from back in the day? It implodes just as we predicted. And we have no spoons left to handle it. At that point, it's just the straw that broke the camel's proverbial back. We hit our breaking wall, and it was messy. Not a shining point in our lives. We took a break.
Yep.
We actually rented a little cottage in Truth or Consequences with its own private hot tub.
VRBO right on.
You went out in the bus for a little bit on your own. We kind of took a little bit apart, but then we quickly realized we don't do a part well.
Yeah.
What came out of that is we had too much on our plate, and we knew we needed to
retreat and set boundaries.
If Merck was going to be successful and self-funding, we had to focus on it. So we resigned from being escapers, from being actively involved.
Yep.
We resigned from consulting on our village. We got our mobile apps. We partnered with another developer to take those over so we could focus on
the Mobile Internet Resource Center.
And
is that when we started hiring somebody? Or
yep, in early 2016, we started hiring the first of our team.
So we kind of just retreated, refocused, and so that was, I guess, the lesson of 2015 is set boundaries and retreat when needed.
Yes, so if you feel that burnout coming, we've now recognized the signs a lot earlier, and I still get trigger points when I start to feel overwhelmed from remembering that experience of what it felt like to really break down, and don't want to go there again. So I've become much more protective of my time, my energy, and where I spend it.
So that was 2015. 2016.
2016 was an awesome year. So we burned out in 2015. We set those boundaries, and we just had an awesome year of not committing to anything, just traveling by our own terms. We mixed in some cruise and train adventures.
We did not let any agenda drive us. We just tried to stay flexible and driven by the cat's needs.
Yes, absolutely, Kiki. It's almost dinner time, yes. So 2016 is the year that I think I want to bring in the concept of NST, which is the time zone that we actually coined very early on in our journey, because what we were finding is it's so much pressure when you are trying to meet up with somebody. Maybe you're visiting, driveway surfing, trying to cross paths, and as soon as you put a date on the calendar...
A date and a place simultaneously.
My gosh, the stress of trying to get there. You just ruled out serendipity. We very early...
Yes. So NST is Nomadic Standard Time. That's the time zone.
And that's the concept that we use to relay to other people is nomadic life is kind of like tracking a hurricane. Is a week further out, it's a big cone of
A cone of
uncertainty.
possibility. Possibility.
Okay.
A cone of possibility.
Possibility. As you get closer, both in time and location, the possibilities narrow.
Mm-hmm.
And so it might go from, I'm going to be there this summer to, it's looking like July, mid-July, maybe midweek. Okay, I'll see you Wednesday at 2. I'm on my way.
Right. So being really embracing that openness and kind of flexibility around scheduling and, letting things flow but still have intention and direction. I guess that the lesson of the year was just getting good at that, practicing that.
We actually embraced it that
Yes.
year.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a lesson early on. I had to come up with that concept in order to survive this one who doesn't make plans.
I make plans. I've always made plans that way, with cone of possibility. But yes,
a very different way than I is how I had to.
She'd have a spreadsheet with scheduled by the minute. So
also 2016 is when we started secretly shopping for a boat. We were ready for the next adventure. When we set out, we actually dreamed of boating.
We talked about boating on our very first date.
We had shopped for a sailboat earlier in our journey and decided the time wasn't right. We had now decided that the Great Loop with a motor yacht or trawler was going to be our next adventure. So we started shopping. By the end of 2016, we had met Why Not, who we're sitting on today.
Yes.
Still in Florida. Yes, we know. Remember those labels? We released them.
Yep.
But anyway, 2017 was a big year. So we went from now being recognized experts in RVing to being absolute newbies we were strangers in a strange water.
Yes. Yeah. So because our boating experience, we both had some small boat experience and stuff early in our lives, but basically we had an inflatable kayak we carried around in the bus, and we went from inflatable kayak to 47-foot motor yacht. And there was a lot of a learning curve, which is a whole part of the fun. I was let's reinvent ourselves. Let's try and find some new challenges. RVing, even vintage buses, is starting to get easy for us. So let's go find something new and challenging. And then what we didn't expect was that we'd get thrown into challenge plus advanced level major hurricane.
So yes, our first cruise, we bought the boat in Punta Gorda, Florida. We knew we were going to be in Florida for hurricane season. There was, unless we hired a captain to get out and way up, we knew that was way beyond our newbie skills to take on that much. We needed to learn first, how to back the boat up into a slip. That would be important. So we did the training. We got comfortable with the boat. We did our first major repositioning down to the Keys.
What are the odds there hasn't been a hurricane in 10 years? Yeah,
But
we're intentionally taking a chance.
And so, yes, Marathon, Florida is where we ended up securing Why Not after deciding there was no sane path out of there. This is all documented on the channel. Those of you who have been around for a while probably remember this as well as we do.
Oh, it's traumatic. Yes.
Oh, yes, traumatic year. We ended up evacuating because Zephyr is still in Florida too, in the path, and we weren't going to lose both homes. We ended up securing Why Not as best we could, knowing that a major hurricane was coming and we're on fixed dock. The odds were not in our favor of Why Not surviving.
Yeah, we were basically left Why Not thinking our new to us boat, which we'd only had for a few months at that point, we were about to lose it. And
we were going to lose Zephyr or our lives, and we got out of there. Thankfully, the marina manager, who was a blog fan who had invited us down there in the first place, not that he had handed us the keys to his truck to get out, so we had a way out.
Yeah, he's like, I saved my truck because he had to fly out for something else. So he's like, get my truck out of here. So we had to evacuate it in the truck with everything we owned piled into it. Grabbed Zephyr, drove all the way to Alabama, and then watched the remote camera feed that we'd left behind on Zephyr until it went, and on Why Not until it went out, listening to the disaster. And then we had those days of unknown of what had happened, because we were right in the middle of 80% of the boats around us ended up sunk, and Why Not got so lucky.
Yes, we got a hold of an aerial photo taken the day after, and Why Not was floating, and we weren't allowed back to the Keys for a couple of weeks, but we had friends who had stayed behind. We got in touch, followers had gotten us in touch with first responders down there who, on their spare time, went and checked on Why Not for us. We even offered Why Not up as housing once we knew that she was okay. And once we got down there, it's just so 2017 is all about gratitude and humility for us, because we're incredibly fortunate. This was all luck. There was no skills involved with us here in Why Not surviving that. It is pure luck. and just that gratitude and being down there in a disaster zone and helping people who had lost everything as well.
Volunteering to help it.
And volunteering and hearing their stories. And then our challenge getting out of there. We waited as long as we could, but we did have damage that needed to be repaired. It wasn't going to get done there in the Keys with so much going on. We had to get out of there to get Why Not fixed on the things that were broken. And we
had planned to go up to Fort Pierce and had a scheduled boatyard there. Was going to do some projects to start making Why Not ours. And, well, Irma got one final punch at us because as we cruised up into Biscayne Bay by Miami, a channel marker, a big steel I-beam that had formerly been above the water was below the water and had not yet been marked and updated on charts yet. And it ripped the bottom of our boat open.
Well, it was me driving the boat over it that ripped it off.
Yeah, okay.
It's not like the channel marker reached out and it was yeah.
That was like
We were
one
tired.
final punch. Oh.
Our energy systems were flaking out. We barely could keep the charts up. It was crazy.
That's
we were in survival mode, but that's a whole different thing. But so yeah, we ended 2017 on the hard in Miami,
living on stilts,
being the only English speaker in the yard, trying to get Why Not fixed.
Whew, yeah,
Okay, we're getting almost there. Okay,
we're getting...
told you this was not going to be a short one. This is the short version. All right, 2018 was Why Not's fixed.
Back on we're actually out, able to cruise.
We're not able to cruise, but first we did an RV trip. We got Zephyr halfway across country, presented at an RV conference. We tried to do this intention of integrating in RVing and boating, and then we started cruising. And we're going to pick up the Great Loop. We're going to do this. We're going to make some miles and some experiences. We ran out of steam really, really early on.
There's a lot of juggling too much.
We again stupidly took on more boat projects. We had a generator swap out, and we decided to have the desk built.
Yeah, we rebuilt the living room. All projects that ended up being bigger than we anticipated.
Awesome projects, but we should not have taken on that much, knowing we thought we were more recovered than we were, and that took us out of us. So by the middle of 2018, we're again in hurricane season and kind of flipping out over that because
Still trauma. Yeah.
We're still traumatized from the year prior. So we just had to give up those labels again. You know, those labels that we're supposed to be doing this great loop. This is what we had set up. This is what we were document. This is what people were identifying with us as. And we knew that doing the great loop at that point was not in the cards for us.
Yeah, but we were always talking about doing the great loop slow, but then we really embraced
Really
we're
slow.
really slow. We started calling ourselves sloopers, slow loopers. We have intentions of at some point doing the Great Loop, but that's not our driving
force anymore.
That's not the label.
So
around
we
us.
we ended up getting as far north as Jacksonville, staying there for the peak of hurricane season, and then doing the St. John's River, and that brought us here to Sanford, where we filmed this today. We have not been here since then,
No.
but almost.
Yeah.
Not quite, but yeah, came to Sanford. We were only supposed to be here for a week, turn around, store the boat, and then resume RVing at the end of the year. We decided we'd announced hey, we're going to divide our time between boat and RV. We had this big plan. We're like, it doesn't feel right. We don't need to, just because we'd announced a plan in the past, if it's feeling like we want to spend a little nesting time and working on the boat and being in one place, maybe we could let go. We let go
of the intention of going out to the RV that year.
Uh-huh. And then that time that we spent made 2019 pretty awesome, because I think that's the year we achieved
nomadic balance
in Nirvana, because we set out here in Sanford, recharged, went back
cruising
down the St. Johns River, right, to go north. We got as far north as Charleston.
Yeah, had some wonderful cruising adventures, got to explore some new cities, and
stuff came up. We had another hurricane evacuation. My mother had a medical issue come up that had us come back. But these were all things now that weren't overwhelming because we had balance. Mm-hmm. We could deal with them.
Yeah, we actually embraced having a different kind of vehicles too. We found a van.
We added the van to the fleet.
Yeah, we traded a car for a van.
And then we ended up go ahead and leaving Why Not stored through hurricane season on the hard, and took off in the van, got Zephyr out to our Arizona property now, the co-op that we have a lease at, and ended the year having done everything we said we were going to do, which was split our time, and we did it feeling pretty darn balanced.
And in particular, we ended the year because we'd now been away from the Escapers, and we had stepped away, and it had just going back to that community and seeing how it had just grown and blossomed. And we dove into the Escapers New Year's Eve gathering and the annual bash, and it was kind of like just this high point of community thriving and celebrating together, and just kind of blew us away. And just also the appreciation of like the thanks we got for like helping to launch that was there.
So it was a great culmination for all these things that we learned, all these lessons that we've just gone through. It's great. Now maybe we're being a little rosy about 2019 because that was the before times. 2020.
Do you remember 2020? It's still going on, isn't it, in some ways?
Yeah. So that ended us. I mean, I don't have to explain what happened in 2020. We've all been through it. That ended us back here in Sanford on the boat and kind of home basing here long term, getting back into things. Business went crazy. We had something that was, people were wanting now to work remotely and do this RVing and boating thing. We worked way too much. Had burnouts last year, feeling that again, and decided we're not allowing that to happen. And we've now been running the Mobile Learning Resource Center for 8 years, coming up here in a couple of months. It's time for something different for us.
Again, it's like we're hitting that's like it's time to reinvent. It's time to think of something else. It's time to not think about mobile internet 24/7.
So we have now been spending, and we're in the midst of it, of getting our team together, which we now have 6 folks on team besides us, to take over the day-to-day operations so that we can focus on thinking about what's next. We're going to take that sabbatical.
You
right?
sure? Yeah, we're actually intending to come this fall of 2022 to try to switch from
full-time to at least part-time.
Yeah, from full-time working to part-time working, and to focus on what's next for us.
We don't know what's next. That's what we're not ending here with any epiphanies or what's next for us.
The next 15 years of your nomading or non-nomading or whatever it is.
We don't know. And we're going to take the time we need to figure out what we're about. He's about to turn 50 here later this year. I follow soon after him. And it's like very much in that mode, that midlife mode of there's probably one more big story in our lives. Oh. We don't know what it'll be, but we need to make the room for it. So that's what 2022-21, I'm grouping them into 1 year because why not? That's what the experience of the pandemic was for us, regrouping and just really realizing that
it's time to transition and not to just run away and not to just shut down what we've built, but to find a way that it all, it lives on, it goes on to this next chapter, and we go on to our next chapter in whatever fashion that looks like.
So that was 15 years. That took a lot longer than I thought it was. I am sweating up here with no air conditioning. I think it's time to end this. We thank you for being along with this. If you've been from the beginning or you've come in at any other point in this chapter, thank you. Thank you for being along, because sharing this has allowed us to have these memories to tap into. And this is all documented. I didn't have to remember all this stuff.
And we've met so many people through this sharing and such. So thank you guys for reaching out and saying, hey, I want to get to know you and stuff like that. It's been wonderful to meet awesome people.
15 years.
Oh my gosh. Wow, what's next?
Okay. The air conditioner.
The air conditioner is next.
We create these videos just for fun, and we love having you along for the ride. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, or if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. See you next time.